Christmas is approaching, and instead of feeling excited, you feel tense, guarded, or braced for impact. This webcast is for you. Today is December 23rd, right before Christmas Eve. And for so many moms in high conflict or abusive co parenting situations, this is the most emotionally loaded time of the year. Not because of the gifts themselves, but because of what gifts are used to do. I'm Tiffany Lesnik. I am a domestic violence attorney, survivor, and legal coach. And today we're talking about gift manipulation. When presents stop being about love and start becoming power plays by the abuser. If you've ever thought, why does this gift feel wrong? Why does my child come home confused or distant? Why does Christmas feel like a competition I never agreed to? You're not imagining it, and you are not powerless. So, what is narcissistic gift manipulation? Let's start by naming it. Gift manipulation happens when presents are used to buy loyalty, shame the other parent, undermine safety or boundaries, and rewrite the story of who is good and who is bad. This often shows up as extreme overspending to win affection, age inappropriate or unsafe gifts, weapons, or video game systems, or access to technology such as a cell phone that you don't think that your child is ready for, or a laptop or an iPad or something like that. Your mom won't let you keep it narratives. Gifts that come with expectations or strings attached, such as purchasing a pet that they can only visit with at the other parent's house, or you can only use it at my house. So while I got you that amazing new Nintendo system, if you want to play video games, you have to stay with me, right? Or withholding gifts as punishment. Again, similar strain. You can't use this gift unless you're here with me. Or I'm not going to buy you this gift, or I'm not going to give you this gift unless you agree to live with me 50% of the time, or you agreed to live with me the predominant amount of time. This isn't generosity. It's coercive control wrapped in wrapping paper. And Christmas is the perfect time for it because emotions are high, kids are vulnerable, and photos tell a story the abuser wants the world to believe, especially the court system. If a gift leaves your child confused, guilty, pressured, or emotionally torn, it's not loving, no matter how expensive it is. So, how does this impact children, and why do moms feel helpless? Here's what breaks my heart, both as an attorney and a mom. Children don't have the language to explain what's happening to them, but they feel it. They feel torn between parents. They're afraid to disappoint. They're confused about what love looks like, and they're pressured to perform gratitude. And moms are left thinking, if I say something, I'll look bitter. If I don't say something, my child absorbs the lie, or my child could be in harm's way. But here's the truth you need to hear. Protecting your child's emotional or even physical safety is not alienation. You don't need to criticize the other parent to counter manipulation. You need to stay calm, use clarity, and also use age-appropriate language. So, what can you say to your children if they receive an age inappropriate or maybe unsafe gift, or a gift you haven't approved of or you don't consent to having in your home? Let me give you some simple scripts that you can use. For younger children, you may say something like, different families give gifts in different ways. What matters most is that you are safe and loved. For older children, maybe who are learning a little bit about alienation or that they're being manipulated with materialism or gifts, you could say something to them a little bit more straightforward, like a real gift doesn't come with expectations or guilt. You don't owe anyone loyalty because of a present. And if your child says something like, Dad said you wouldn't let me keep this gift, you can calmly say, my job is to keep you safe and help you grow. That doesn't mean I'm against your gift. It means I'm for you. Or you could say something like, I don't need you to worry about what Dad has said. Your dad and I will work this out. I don't want you to worry about that. You just worry about being a kid, right? You don't want to involve them in those conversations. And it is okay for you to set boundaries in your home. And when the abuser is purchasing things like video game systems or cell phones or laptops or BB guns or other types of weapons that you don't approve of or consent to, it's okay to establish rules or boundaries in your own home and let your children know that, hey, I understand dad got you this gift, but it doesn't conform to the rules in our house. So when you're here, there are going to be some parameters around the use of that gift. So it could be that there's limitations on how frequently that it can be used. There can be limitations on screen time. They might have to show you their devices and that you're frequently checking in to see what they're doing. It may be that any kind of weapons are constantly locked up and they're never used without parental discretion or involvement or supervision, right? So you can have your own set of rules in your house if you decide to allow those gifts that the abuser has purchased to be used in your home. And it is absolutely acceptable for you to tell your children that they are going to abide by the rules in your home. Okay. So, how do we set boundaries around manipulative gift giving? We want to start with the right framework, right? So, boundaries are not punishments and they're not judgment. They're clear rules that protect safety, consistency, and emotional well being, which is something that children in abusive relationships absolutely need because they're used to dwelling in a state of chaos and confusion. So we want to provide stability, consistency, and safety for them. You are not setting boundaries against the other parent. You are setting boundaries for the safety of your child. And this distinction matters to your child, to the court, and to your own peace, because when he comes into court and complains about how you've interfered with his holiday or his present giving, you can clearly state why you set boundaries in the first place and why you thought that these gifts presented a safety risk to your child. So, boundary rule number one, when it comes to children, we want to keep adult decisions with adults. Okay. You are going to decide as the parent when a gift is appropriate. You are not going to have your child deliver messages between parents, right? So if you don't approve of a gift, that is not for you to tell your child to go take that message to the abusive parent and say, Mommy said I can't have this present. Or to take that gift, such as the iPad or the cell phone, and make your child physically return it to the other parent. That is your job as the adult. So if you don't approve of a gift and you don't want it in your home and you've absolutely set a boundary and said no to a cell phone or no to a video game system and he purchased it anyway, you are the one who needs to physically return it. Even if that means that you wrap it up in a box and you take it to UPS or FedEx where they have tracking, right? So you can confirm that it has been delivered so he's not accusing you of stealing his personal property. And that it also has insurance so that if he accuses you of damaging that personal property and tries to make you pay for it or tries to sue you for it, you can say, hey, there's an insurance policy that came with the UPS or the FedEx shipping and you can be covered by that. So you don't have to necessarily personally interact with him, but you can package those gifts back up and send them right back to him and say, those gifts will not be in my home. You can also send him messages that establish rules around gifts, such as cell phones, laptops, iPads, to say, I'd really like for us to work out a system to ensure that there are protective apps on this device to protect from things like access to adult content, pornography, R-rated movies, adult rated video game systems. Also, you have to be very mindful these days about access to strangers. Many video game systems are now open to the public. So you can log on and you can log onto a world where you're interacting with a lot of other people who you don't know. So the world has been completely opened up. And unfortunately, it opens up the world to predators for children. So I would absolutely have some safety parameters in place around what kind of access your child is going to have when they're playing these games. And I would ask the abusive parent to provide you with the names of those applications. What devices is he installing on laptops, iPads, tablets, video game systems, cell phones to ensure that your child is protected from outside influences and predators? And if he's not willing to do that, that is something that you can document and show as evidence in court that the abuser is more interested in conflict and control over you than they are actually in protecting the safety of your child. So, another tip, if a gift creates tension, handle it privately and offline from your child, okay? No debates in front of your child, no arguing about a gift in front of your child. No asking your child about how they feel about keeping or returning a gift. We're not going to put them in the center of this dispute. That is not fair to them. No explanations that require a child to evaluate either parent. Do you think your dad purchasing that gift for you was appropriate? Do you think that your father purchasing that gift for you was a way to try to hurt me? These are not kinds of questions that we want to be asking our children. These are very harmful questions. So, boundary number 2, focus on safety and logistics, not motive. Boundaries should be framed around objective standards, not intent. Why did he do this? He did this to harm me. He did this to control me. He did this to harm the children. We don't want to frame things in that manner. That's not going to be helpful for us when we go to court. So, examples of neutral boundary categories that we could use in court later on to support our position that we were being manipulated, or our children were being manipulated, would be that the games were unsafe or the gifts were unsafe, right? They were either not age appropriate, they were weapons, our child was too young, or maybe our child is too impulsive to have a weapon, even if they're a little bit older, or they're just not responsible enough, even if they're a little bit older, to have a weapon. Or you feel that the technology is unsafe. There aren't appropriate safeguards in place to protect your children from the outside world and the influences of the outside world. It's okay to have household rules. And courts expect you to have boundaries and rules in your homes with limitations on screen time. If you're just letting your child watch TV and be on the internet and be on their laptop and their tablet nonstop, that's not a good thing. We want to have limitations on how much screen time, how many movies, how much TV time that they're consuming. It's okay to have household rules on pets too. So if your abuser X gets them a pet, even though you've said, please do not get them a pet for Christmas, and they still get them a pet, what are those rules? Is the pet going to go back and forth? What happens if the abuser will no longer keep the pet? Is the pet going to come live with you, or is the abuser going to have to rehome that pet? What are those rules for that pet? I have 2 kitty cats because my abusive ex-husband got my 2 kids 2 kitty cats, even though I said, please do not get them cats or pets, because I knew exactly what would happen. He said he'd keep them, he would take care of them, the girls would take care of them, and he reneged on that promise. And the girls wanted to bring their cats to my house because they didn't want to live with their dad anymore. And then here I am. If I say no, I look like the bad guy. Well, both of my kids are grown. They're grown adults now, and they moved out and pursued their own lives. And of course, the cats are elderly cats now, and they are very comfortable in our home environment. It would have been very difficult for them to have had to move out. And so I have my girls' 2 cats now. I'm the one who's been taking care of them and taking them to the vet and taking on all those expenses. And I knew that would happen as soon as he got those pets. So just be mindful if he gets pets, establish some rules in advance But we always want to do things to protect our children. We want to do things in love. We want to do things that are within our budget. We don't want to do things just for the principle of the matter or to be cruel. So if you can bring the pets into your home and the children love their pets and they become a part of your family, if that's something you can afford and you're willing to do, that would certainly be a benefit to your children, and something, again, that you could show the court in evidence later that he did that was harmful to your children. Okay, make sure that you are following any court orders or parenting plans that you have. So, if there's anything in those orders or parenting plans that discusses legal custody, what has to be a joint decision, such as guns or technology, things of that nature, if he's violating those orders, this is something you might want to bring to the attention of the court. And when you're talking to him or when you're talking to your children, you want to avoid language about control, manipulation, buying love, or bad intent or bad faith. Okay. Those conversations are for court filings, not conversations. They do not make you look good. So, boundary number 3, set the boundary once, then stop explaining. Right? We don't need to go into this circular wheel with either our children or the abuser. Over explaining invites debate. Debate invites escalation. So a boundary sounds like, this doesn't fit within our household rules, period. We'll follow the court order or the parenting plan, or I'm going to follow the court order or the parenting plan. And if necessary, we'll handle this through counsel or the attorneys if needed. Then stop. Stop engaging with him. Silence after a clear boundary is not weakness, it's containment. We're not letting things escalate out of control. And then boundary number 4, do not compete. Okay? One of the most important boundaries is internal. You don't need to match his spending. You don't need to match his excitement and his chaos. Your consistency, your calmness, your predictability matter far more to children than excess. Regulate through steadiness, not all the spectacle. And boundary number 5, document, don't react. So if gift giving repeatedly violates safety rules, undermines household boundaries, creates emotional distress for the children, document quietly. Put a date, the item, take a picture of it, write down the impact it had on your children. This protects you legally without pulling the children into the conflict. What do healthy boundaries communicate to children? Without a single negative word about the other parent, boundaries teach children that adults handle adult issues and that love doesn't require. Abusers and narcissists live on conditional love, right? They are performative when it comes to love. We want to set boundaries because we want to communicate to our children that safety matters more than stuff. And then we also can communicate to them that conflict can exist without chaos. And that is powerful modeling. So you can set firm boundaries without accusing, without explaining, and without involving your child. So important not to involve your child. And boundaries are not about winning Christmas. They are about protecting your child's emotional center and your. So legally, what do judges actually notice? Let me be very clear as an attorney, judges do notice gift manipulation, especially patterns. So courts pay attention to extreme or inconsistent spending, gifts that violate safety rules, used to undermine the other parent, holiday photos used to provoke or shame, and then children parenting adult narratives. So if something feels off, document it, take photos, save text, write down dates and your children's reactions, or write down his reactions. Right? Is he pacing up and down your driveway? Is he refusing to leave your property? Is he cussing you out over the phone? What is he doing that is excessive or abusive? You're not being petty, you're preserving evidence. Christmas moments matter in court because they reveal character and control. So, how do we reclaim the meaning of giving? So, let me end with this. You don't need to compete. You don't need to overspend, and you don't need to prove anything. Your presence matters more than his presence. Let me repeat that. Your presence matters more than his presence. This Christmas, give your children emotional safety, predictability, peace, and love without strings. Create traditions. Create traditions that cost nothing. You could do things like a Christmas Eve walk. Write them a love note. Tell them all the amazing qualities that they possess. That's not something they're going to hear from their abuser. A favorite movie or a meal with popcorn and pajamas, Christmas lights and hot chocolate, making Christmas cookies or gingerbread houses together. You could adopt a pet. Maybe he's going to buy them a pet, but many shelters waive their fees during the holidays. And so even if you can't really afford Christmas gifts, maybe you could afford to take your children to the shelter and let them pick out their own pet for the holiday. That's assuming you could actually afford to keep a pet, right? Pets can be expensive. They have food costs, they have vet bills, they need maintenance and care as well. So please, I'm not saying this to go just to the shelter and get a pet if that's not something that you can take responsibility for. Because we don't need another living thing who's now neglected or abused, because financially that's not something you could take on. But if you have a little bit in your budget and you want to make a big impact, that's just a suggestion I have, is to go to the shelter with your children and let them pick out a special gift in the form of an animal who's been abandoned or abused and who's also weak and weary and who has also been cast away, right, or abandoned during the holidays. And you can give that special animal a loving home for the holidays to bring home to your family, to create special memories for you and your children that will last years and years and years. These are all gifts that last. Scripture tells us every good and perfect gift is from above, and that comes from James 1:17. God's gifts don't confuse, coerce, or control. They heal, they protect, they bring peace. If this helped you, share it with another mom who needs it, and stay connected with Live Free Legal for support, strategy, and strength. Like us, subscribe, and if this spoke to you, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't have to figure this out alone. Make sure you've subscribed here at Live Free Legal so you don't miss these conversations, because knowledge is power and strategy changes outcomes. And if you're ready to go deeper, and if you're ready for deeper support, real legal strategy, and a community of women who get it, I invite you to join Empower Her, my private membership for women navigating high conflict divorce, custody, and post-separation abuse, or our Live Free legal coaching groups. They're opening again soon, and spots are limited. These groups are where women stop reacting and start taking control, legally, emotionally, and strategically. Join the waitlist below so you're the first to know when doors open. Freedom starts with the right next step, and you don't have to take it alone. You are doing better than you think, and you are going to get through this. Join us next week, Tuesday at 7 Eastern Standard Time, as we do a webcast every Tuesday at 7 p.m. I hope that you do have a blessed holiday, regardless of the season that you find yourself in.